Hey guys, so this is part two to our JavaScript assignment tutorials. And for this tutorial, I just kind of want to break down how to go about the NBA data and kind of figure out what we're trying to look for and how to really tackle this problem. Similar to how we did it for the Pokemon template, I'm just going to kind of show you what data is important and what data we should not really pay attention to because it doesn't really serve us any purpose in what we're trying to solve here, okay? So when we're kind of given, huge data, just like how we did it for the Pokemon template, we want to do the same thing for here. We kind of want to just analyze the data that we're given because some of the data is important and some of it is complete garbage, to be honest, right? We want to know which pieces of this, JSON object is important to us and why it's important, okay? So once we kind of look through, okay, like we see like a bunch of plays being repeated, an array of plays. We see there are 4 periods, so P stands for periods. We know, okay, like we can work with this, right? We figured out kind of our starting point. So whenever we're working with this NBA data, we know that there's 4 periods in a game, right? And in order to really find out who the greatest scorers or who scored the most points, we need to add up all the points amongst all the periods in order to do, get that calculation. And before we, get started with summing all the data, we need to figure out what we're exactly looking for. So when we start this with this JSON object, we go to this attribute right here, or this property called PD, and we see it's an array. And this is an array of all the periods and the plays for those periods. So we see that, okay, there's P1, and then we are given this huge array of all the plays that happen in period 1. So that's already a good start. So we need to figure out a way to kind of get to this point. We need to get to this array somehow, because this array is what allows us to see who scored and what kind of plays happen in that period. So we need to figure out a way to first access the plays right here. Okay, so when I'm breaking down this problem, I'm going to start off with just the first period. And then we can easily apply the same concepts to the second period, third period, and the fourth period as well. Okay, so we are at this point where we have this huge array of plays. What do we do now? Okay, what we do is we want to look at, we have all these like random properties here, but the only important ones to us is PID, which is player ID, and the E-type, okay? Why do we need E-type, and what does E-type really mean? E-type simply just means, it just means the type of play, because in basketball there are, many ways that you can make a play. It could be a simple pass, anything from a jump off, right? Or a jump ball, I should say, missed shots, fouls, anything really. And these are all E-types. Of different numbers contain different E-types, and the one that we're looking for is E-type for scoring, because that's what's important to us, right? And the E-type that is considered for a bucket or a score is this E-type right here. So E-type of 1. Okay, when there's an E-type of 1, we know that the player has scored. They scored a bucket. So that's the E-type that we're looking for. Okay, once we figure out E-type, we're also given this player ID. Player ID is very important because this is the number that we're going to return after we total up all the scores and make sure they're assigned to the correct player. This is the PID we're going to be returning. So this is also very important to us because we need to keep track of which player scored how many points, right? Otherwise, we would not be able to differentiate who the best hooper is, right? So once we're done that, we just have to figure out a way to add up all the points they scored through their E-type, or the number of times they scored. So for that, we just have to figure out how many times does this E-type 1 appear for this player ID. And you guys will need to figure out a way to store this data somewhere so that you will be able to iterate through it and count it after. Okay? After that is done for period 1, you just have to apply the same concept to period 2, 3, and 4. Right? And once you have that data filter out, because we only need player ID and E-type. So once you filter through all that data, you just need to figure out a way to sum these, elements together. And once you figure out how to sum these elements together, it's very easy to just return the player ID of whoever has the most points, because you can just use a maximum function to do that. Okay? And that's pretty much it. That's all you guys really have to do. And it sounds a lot easier than done, but we just have to take baby steps. So first, we need to figure out a way to do it for period 1, and then we can figure out, okay, how to do it for the other periods. And again, just to reiterate, we want to get to this point right here. So we need to use the dot operator in order to access this array right here. And once we access this array, these are all individual objects in itself, like play objects in itself. So we need to use the dot operator again on after the index of the array in order to access the e-type right here, and in order to access the player ID right here. Okay. So with that said, I hope that kind of clears the path for you guys in order to see what kind of thought process I should be taking in order to complete this question. And with that said, I wish you guys the best of luck. Have fun.